Hey, good day, everyone. Welcome to the Bert Salazar Show. My name is Bert Salazar, and I'm going to be the host today. We're going to be talking about 6 ways to negotiate with the IRS. So you owe a lot of money to the IRS. It could be any figure. It could be 10, 20, 30, 50,000, 100,000. I just settled a case for a client, $365,000 owed to the IRS. And you get a nasty letter, you get a love letter from the IRS, and they want their money. Now, they don't want their money tomorrow, the next day, they don't want it next year. They want their money today. And there are a lot of things that the IRS can do to collect money from you. One of the biggest ones is one that I deal often with is paycheck and payroll garnishment. They can go after your paycheck. They can even go after your Social Security benefits if you happen to be retired and collecting Social Security. So, what are some of the things that you can do in order to negotiate with the IRS and try to find an amicable way in order to rectify whatever situation you may have. Now, there are 6 ways to do it, but before we go into those 6 ways, let me tell you right off the bat that the IRS has 10 years to collect any money that you owe them. After 10 years, if they haven't been able to collect, then they have to forgive the debt altogether. Now, I get all kinds of calls from people that owe money to the IRS, and they come up with interesting and great ideas. So let's start going through some of the things that you can do in order to negotiate with the IRS. Now, the first one, and this is one that I don't recommend, is called run and hide. Now, you can run, but you can't hide from the IRS. Eventually, they're going to catch up to you. And the closer you get to that 10-year deadline, the more aggressive they're going to become. By the way, that 10-year rule that they have is called a CSET rule, and it's the collection statute expiration date. So from the day that you file your taxes, they got 10 years in order to collect. And once again, in the first couple of years, you may get a letter here, a letter there. But as you go into the fourth, fifth, and then going into the second half of that 10-year period, they're going to become very, very aggressive, and they're going to try to get their money from you in any way, shape, or form. So one of the questions that I get often from clients is, well, Bert, if they have only 10 years to collect my money, what happens if I move to Europe? I leave the country, I go to Europe, I go to South America, and then I come back 10 or 11 years later. Shouldn't I be okay? And the answer to that is no. Anytime they leave the United States, that clock, that 10-year clock stops. So you can be gone for 10 years, 15 years. You come back to the US, and obviously they'll be notified that you're back in the US because of your passport entry into any airport in the US. And then they're going to catch up to you, and they're going to go back to the very beginning because that clock stopped a long time ago. So I don't recommend that. You got to be able to meet them right in front and try to negotiate a deal that may be good for you. The second way that you may be able to deal with the IRS, which we do fairly often, is called CNC, is currently not collectible. If you owe money to the IRS and you're in financial straits and you find yourself in a really bad financial situation in which the IRS realizes that they cannot collect any money from you at this point in time, then they're going to place you, obviously, with the assistance of a tax resolution specialist. They're going to place you on what they call currently not collectible. Now, they're not going to do that forever. They may do it for 18 months, 24 months, and then they'll go back to you and they'll try to revisit to see where you're at financially. And that's one way of mitigating exigent circumstances that you may have at this point in time that may prevent you from paying the IRS. Number 3 is what is called installment agreements, IA cases. Installment agreements come in many different forms. Basically, what you're doing is you're securing a deal with the IRS so they don't have to go out and garnish your wages or anything like that. And then you're going to pay the IRS over a period of time. And usually that could be a year, could be 2 years, could be 5 years, could be 6 years, depending on the situation, depending on how much money you can afford to pay, and most important, how much debt do you have with the IRS, and also what that 10-year window may be as far as the CSET is concerned, because perhaps you owe for several years. So if you owe taxes going back to, let's say, 2015, 2016, well, that means that 2025, 2016, 2026 will be the end of that 10-year period in which the IRS may be able to collect upon you. So they're going to be more aggressive on those years than if you owed taxes that are fairly recent from that perspective. So there are many ways to skin that cat. But once again, you need to have proper representation when it comes with dealing with the IRS, because what you don't want to do is you definitely, when dealing with the IRS, you definitely don't want to bring a knife to a gunfight because you're going to lose every single time out. Okay, so that's very important. The fourth way is what is known as OIC cases, which are offering compromises. Now, not everyone can qualify for an offer in compromise. Basically, what you're doing there is you're trying to settle with the IRS for an amount that is lower than what your actual debt is. And obviously, you have to provide proper documentation. You have to complete a financial statement for the IRS. And once again, you need help in order to do that. You can't do that. You could try to do that by yourself. But once again, you're playing checkers and the IRS is playing chess. So you really don't understand the rules of engagement when it comes to dealing with the IRS. So an offer in compromise may be suitable. It all depends on your financial situation and what your advisor may think that would be the best way to go when dealing with the IRS. So that would be number 4. Number 5 is full pay. You know, you owe $100,000 to the IRS, you want to negotiate, you do have the ability to pay, your business is doing well, or you're doing well financially, both you and your family, if you happen to be married, and they feel that you do have the ability to pay, so you can do a full pay. And when you do a full pay, you can obviously work it out so you can have some kind of a payment plan that may be suitable for you from that perspective. So that's a win-win as well. And then last but not least, and this would be number 6, would be bankruptcy. Now, this is one that I seldom recommend, but if your financial circumstances are to such an extent that you have no choice but to file bankruptcy, then obviously that may be a suitable solution. Now, beware that not all tax debt is going to be forgiven in bankruptcy. So you have to go back into the bankruptcy laws, identify what portion of your debt may be forgiven under those circumstances. And once again, you need to deal with someone that specializes in tax resolution planning from a business standpoint. Now, I do these videos on an ongoing basis, not only for my clients, because you know, we're a tax planning and a tax resolution firm, and we solve all your tax issues by acting as your legal agent in front of the IRS, but we also do it for the public. We want the public to be aware. We want you to be aware, to be educated. But the worst thing that you can do is try to run and hide from the IRS. It's not going to work. And also last, but obviously not least, if you get a letter from the IRS, you have to act upon it and don't put it aside hoping that it's going to go away, because hope is not a financial strategy, definitely not a tax strategy, and it's not going to go away. And last but not least, I want to share with you that, you know, there's going to be a link to this video. So if you like the information that I have provided, please feel free to download it. And always remember that my goal and that of my firm is to kind of help you change the way that you see things, because when you change the way that you see things, the things that you see change. So once again, thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.